Welcome back. This week I'm going to be looking at coax losses and why you may well be wasting your money on expensive cable. This is going to be controversial, but here goes. Over the past few years I've noticed radio amateurs online and in clubs getting very concerned about coax losses and spending really quite large amounts of money. And the thing that prompted me to make this video was someone spending £1,000 on coax cable for a couple of antennas in a relatively small suburban garden in Britain, and I just couldn't see what the possible benefits of that would be, so I decided to actually do the calculations. The reason why this has become such an issue here is there's a big influence of US social media in amateur radio, especially on YouTube. American gardens are significantly larger. I know several people who in America who have gardens that are 200 or 300 meters long. So coax cable lengths and losses become a bigger problem. There's also much more use of towers. So you have the distance of the tower to get down before you even come across the ground. The other thing is that we get a lot of advertising. Cables have got more expensive. There are more expensive brands of cable that you can buy. And it's become a kind of a fad or a sort of fetish thing, people becoming obsessed. And I think the reason for that is that they don't understand what a dB is. They see these loss figures and they think that those losses will have a bigger practical effect than they actually do have. So I thought we'd look at the evidence. I'm going to look at the actual coax losses for a 20 metre length of cable. The average UK back garden, according to the UK government, is 188 metres squared. That's based on title deed information that's been analysed, and that means that your back garden is going to be 10 to 20 metres long. If you fed a dipole in the middle of a 20 metre long garden, you would have 10 metres to get back to the house. You might have another 5 metres to get into the operating position. 20 metres is perfectly reasonable as the maximum that you would want to use. I've lived in a 2-storey house and I used certainly less than 20 metres to get to the chimney head down to a ground floor operating position. So 20 metres is a reasonable length to be looking at here. If we consider 14 megahertz at 1.5 to 1 VSWR, because the VSWR affects the losses as well. I'm guessing that most people are using fairly resonant antennas, or they're using an auto ATU, and they're going to have an SWR of about 1.5 to 1, maybe a bit less. So Ultraflex 10, which is a very popular base station coaxial cable, would give you a loss of 0.09 dB for 20 meters. RG213, which is the old faithful thick cable that we all used to use, would be 0.4 dB. And RG58, which is the thin stuff, would be 1.1 dB loss for that 20 meters. Now, the figures I'm giving for RG213 and RG58 are for proper quality Belden manufactured cables. How much is an S point? Well, one S point is 6 dBs. And the idea of an S point is that it's not a way of displaying things on a meter specifically, but it's a division that people can hear. So when you give an S reading of 1 to 9, you're not just looking at a meter. Sometimes you don't have a meter. You're doing it in your head and you're trying to determine how strong a signal is in relation to the background noise. If we go back to this chart here, we can see that 1.1 dB is 1/6 of an S point. So even at its worst, you probably couldn't tell the difference between the 0.09 and the 1.1 dB. You probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference between that. So I had a look at this, which is the minimum difference that the human ear can detect, and the answer is 1 dB. That is, if you put someone in a hearing test, they can detect a 1 dB difference. In reality, in the real world, for adults, it's about 2 to 3 dB is the minimum difference that you would actually be able to detect in a noisy environment, which is what we are doing on the radio. So the next question that's going to come up, of course, is VHF. So here are the figures for 144 megahertz, 20 meter length, 1.5 to 1 VSWR again. Ultraflex 0.9 dB, RG213 1.2 dB, RG58 3.9 dB. So in this case, you would potentially be able to hear the difference between RG58 and Ultraflex. Could you hear the difference between Ultraflex and RG213? Possibly not. You might be able to tell a difference between 213 and 58. That's the practicalities of the science here. In conclusion, I would say not to buy into the hype and not bother with expensive cables unless you are doing low signal work on VHF and UHF, and that's really a different thing. Or you're using higher power outputs, because cheaper cables can't handle as high power outputs. I mean, RG58, realistically, 200 or 300 watts is all you can put through that. Or if you actually do have a very long run, but I'm suggesting that most British houses don't have long runs of coax. And I know someone's going to say they've got a 100 metre long garden or whatever now, but most of us don't. So I hope you found that useful, and it might save you some money. And I just hope there's not huge trouble over this video. But thanks for watching. 73s.